If you love failure, hit that like, hit that subscribe.
Oh my God! I'm embarrassed! He's flying!
Welcome in. It's almost time.
Welcome in, my Sixers faithful. This is HUD Radio, and it's another second-round exit for our Philadelphia 76ers. I'm Tom Arnone. That's Ryan Brodo. We're brought to you by Philly Sports Trips, the Philadelphia 5 for 5 sports travel company, premium travel and tailgating experiences for the passionate fans of Philadelphia. Go to phillysportstrips.com and book your getaway today. And like I said earlier on the show, everybody needs to get out of town. Everybody needs to jump out of town as quick as they can. Our topics for tonight: future of James Harden. Sixers, are they trading Joel Embiid? And what are the Sixers off-season plans? So we'll get into all that. Ties into our poll question. It is brought to you by FanUp, and FanUp is the best way to enjoy fantasy sports, daily NBA, and MLB contests as well. Win great prizes. Sign up today. Use promo code A2D. You get $50 right at sign up. So go check out our great friends over at FanUp. Our poll question for tonight: the Sixers should move on from Joel Embiid this offseason. Do you agree or disagree? Let us know. We're live, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and everywhere you get your podcasts, we're there as well. So hit the like, subscribe, follow, stay with us. Go ahead first, because you know how I feel about the guy, but you probably also heard what I said earlier. So go ahead.
Well, I think they can make this very easy. I would not be surprised at all, and I'm sure you're right there with me, Tom, where he comes out and he's like, okay, it's time to move on for a fresh start, and he just requests a trade, right? Like, it's been long rumored for years, right? And that would not be surprising in the least. So if he does that, that kind of makes our job very easy, because it's like, okay. I think what Wilson said, so I'll agree to the poll, right? I'll agree to the poll. Because, Wilson had said a couple times when you guys were live doing your reactions that, if he's wowed by an offer, then yeah, right? We're not just going to go out and be like, okay, we're going to trade him for scraps. This is not a situation. Otherwise, some people want to say it on Twitter where it's like, oh, it's Ben Simmons all over again. It's like, no, it's not, right? Like, I understand it sucks. Embiid was not good tonight. Like, it was very, very bad. But this is not a thing where you're just trying to get anything for a guy. The guy just won MVP. Like, I get it. Second round exit again. It's going to be on his legacy. But there's going to be some really good offers out there. So if you're wowed, right, and we're going to spend the next handful of hours to days to weeks to months to theorizing what the best offer is, I think you do it. I understand. It's like, listen, when you just get a bunch of stuff for a player, the team that gets that star usually ends up winning. But this is an interesting scenario, right? You suck for all those years, and it doesn't matter what the roster is, the coaches, anything in between. You end with the same result, and it's either him getting hurt or him not showing up in the biggest moment in the second round, right? That's a trend, and I'm not good with that trend. So I love him. I appreciate him. He's one of the most, fun athletes to watch in my lifetime. I'm sure I'm not the only one saying that. But if there's an offer out there, we gotta at least look at it.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. You have to look at offers. And to the poll, this is a guy that, I think he might be one of the most gifted basketball players I've seen for his size, the things he can do on a basketball court. But you follow your leader, right? And that's how it goes. And this is a guy that I've called my son. He's the MVP of the league for a reason. He can't get over a hump of a second round, which is mind-boggling to me. At the end of the day, when we watch him play for 82 games, air quote. So, but I agree. Because I think there will never be a higher value for Joel Embiid than right this minute. And if you want to try to not build around Maxey, that's not what I'm saying. We have Maxey. You're probably going to get 4 or 5 first-round picks. You're going to get at least two young players who you believe will be able to play, right? So you're not like trying to start totally over. You're trying to get younger and a ton of picks with your own. And you hire another coach and go that direction. What do I think they're going to do? I don't know. On the show I said 95% chance they trade him, but I don't know if the MVP of the league's ever been traded. So that's the question. Like, do you do it? But that being said, like we said on the show, Rudy Gobert, for for as many picks as he got and what they got back for him, it's a no brainer. So I mean, I trade him, but I could see how they would hold on to him because he sells tickets for them, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, their biggest plan and the reason, obviously to win championships, right? But before the process, it was all about they were just kind of living in mediocrity, right? They didn't have a product. Well, their product is two things: one, second round exits, right? But also it's the MVP of the league and really, really exciting basketball, not only for the city of Philadelphia, but for all of the NBA. To your point, I don't want to say it's my fear, right? Because you'd be getting obviously a really good player, but also there's some question marks with him. But what I think they're going to try to do, right, is that because this Tobias Harris, Tyrese Maxey, and picks thing, even though that we are limited in picks, at least in the in the short term, the Tyrese Maxey, Tobias Harris plus for Damian Lillard, it matches up perfectly. Now, are we really going to do another summer of Damian Lillard leaving Portland just for him to be like, hey, I'm loyal, I never want to leave? Yeah, probably, right? Because that's what we've done. That's what we've lived in for the past 3 years as basketball fans. I would be stunned in a world where nothing stuns me anymore if they moved on from him. But again, like we talk about, like with all sports, we talk about Howie Roseman, to where like we give him a lot of credit right now, where there isn't a deal he's not willing to discuss, right? Like the GMs, the worst GMs in the league are ones that at least don't do diligence, even with your most beloved players. And losing game like you did, how you did, where you did today, should open up all of those conversations. But a pivot to Dame. There's a couple other names I look at. Maybe you can try and get Brandon Ingram, even though there's some question marks. Like this is the problem. The James Harden thing, when it happens, was such a like, oh, that makes sense type move, especially because you're getting out of a horrible situation with Ben Simmons. It's like, oh, okay, this type of a guy with that type of a guy, Harden with Embiid, it made too much sense. There is no easy pivot unless something drastically changes with Damian Lillard. And even then, you're tying yourself while it's like game time and it looks like that matches the window. There's a lot of things I don't like with what's going on with him right now, right? Like, obviously, what he does on the court is magical. Misses a ton of games. His contract is one of the, let's just say not age well type contracts, at least
and he's getting older.
Yes, it's an undersized guard who's in his 30s already.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing going to change. There's nothing going to move the needle. It looks like, out there just early on that you're going to say, okay, what can I pair with him to fix it, to get over the hump? That's not out there what it looks like right now, right? It doesn't look like to be out there. But what is out there automatically is if you put on the table we're trading the MVP of the league, right? Then there's a lot of things out there. Mm-hmm. And if we go into the James Harden side of it and what he decides to do, I mean, it's $39 million on the books. It's hard to leave that on the table unless somebody's giving you like a 4-year deal. And could you do a sign and trade with Houston like Matrice saying? Sure. I mean, I'm sure there's rumors have some truth to them to a point, right? So I mean, whatever you can get back for him is a win. And if it's just a younger player, period, I'll take whatever they want to give me just to get out of that money, in a way. That young player, another player to match it, whatever it takes to get out of that money for 1 year, give it to me and move on. Because I don't want Joel gone and Harden here. That doesn't make sense. I don't know if Harden would want to stay here with no Joel. So, but again, when you watch your two best players not show up in the biggest game of the year in a game 7, a winner go home situation against your rivals, and not only do you lose by a ton, right? You get your doors blown off. Mm-hmm. If you lose by 2 or 3, the conversation's harder. But this makes it easier because it's a star-driven league. It's not a coach-driven league. It's a star-driven league. That's what this series shows you. Okay, it's not a coach-driven. It's what did a star show up in big spots. And tonight you watch a star show up in a huge spot in Jason Tatum. That's what stars do. And the biggest stages, the brightest moments, right? This is what they do.
Yeah, I mean, on the Harden point, right? Like before you had said that, and before we you had brought up like the Jalen Green sign and trade, which like people in the chat are like, how would that even happen? Well, it's been rumored, right? Like, but obviously everything we read on the internet is not necessarily true. But they're looking to possibly move on from Jalen Green, and they also have the cap space to do it, right? So I think regardless whether it's a trade or him just somehow opting out of it, I think it would either end him coming back here, opting in, or him leaving because he knows Houston's willing to give him more long term, because they have $63.5 million in cap space to spend. And I understand in Houston, like for people like, why would Houston do that? Because they would look at it, in my opinion, as Harden being that facilitator for the young guys, right? Not him going off for 50, because we know the guy can't give you 20 on a consistent basis, let alone 50, right? But that's like a really murky water thing. And like with the Tobias thing too, it's like, yeah, like, can we get like 2 role players and 2 seconds for him? Like, yeah, probably, right? Like, can we get like a young star with a bad contract and like a potential future pick? Maybe, right? But like, we're in like a very, very, I don't want to call it like identity crisis, because we have an MVP. We have good role players, I think, right? Like, I think we do, but it's kind of a crossroads, right? Because Embiid's stock is never going to be this high. And also, like, Harden's up. Maxey's going to be up for a contract soon. Tobias' contract is finally, tradable. And also, like, we don't know what we're going to do with the coach. Like, I agree with you what you said earlier, Tom, with like Sammy Cassell, somebody that we thought we were going to before the Doc Rivers thing became a reality, like someone like that, right? But it's like the Sixers organization, again, to your point from earlier, like an organization that I do not trust. We should not trust at all. Daryl Morey, who I was like, hey, big fan of Daryl. I think
loser. He's a loser, and not in a big, like a negative way. Like I'm calling him a loser. I'm calling him a loser because I don't like what he thinks basketball wise.
It's very, now seeing this full circle, because what did we argue about over the summer? It's like
he wants to be friends with these guys instead of like hey, I'm the general manager. I'm not gonna bring guys in because I had a relationship with them before. I'm going to bring guys in and do things on what's best for my basketball team.
I was willing to stick up for Daryl last summer, right? And we got in a ton of debates about it because I truly believed that a full year of Harden and Embiid, the peak of it was worth one more year of just seeing it. And the problem is we saw glimpses of it, right?
No. Hold on a second. This was a different team during the regular season. Yes. They were tougher. They won more road games, right? There's a lot of things that they did that they weren't doing in years past, right? They just were. We watched it with our eyeballs. So to say it didn't work regular season wise, we're lying to ourselves. It did. And we won big games and they look good doing it. But like, Trade Embiid, you're building Philly, Irish True, appreciate the super chat. But real quick, when Michi says, he's not surprised Harden didn't show up. Never thought Embiid would do that same thing. And I agree. Yeah. I agree to a point, but he's not a guard, right? This is a guard-driven league. It's a guard-driven league. So he needs guys who can flat out stroke it from around the perimeter. That's what he needs. We're not surrounded with that. We shot 8 for a million from 3-point range tonight. It's disgusting. It's not even like real life. We could all shoot better. There's guys out there that can shoot better than that. That's all. Mm-hmm. That stink.
Well, and we've talked about it in weeks prior, Tom. It comes down at the end of the day. Sure, our stars not being good, but it comes down to not being able to make open shots. We talked about this after Game 6, for God's sakes, right? We talked about this in years past. Broken face, broken back, all of the things that go into it. And now you have a situation where it's like, where do you pivot to? Where? I like the Harden thing really quick. Like, I would have said this, and like it's not a hindsight 2020 thing because I could say it because we're not playing tomorrow or anytime soon. Like, I would have had really big question marks about bringing him back on a long-term deal if we would have gotten to the finals this year, Tom. It has nothing to do with today, so I'm not like speaking in the moment for everyone at home. It's that this guy has not shown the ability to stay healthy or fresh or whatever the hell the 2 bad games and the 1 good game is. Like, I don't know what to frame it as. Like,
Harden's
he's hit a wall.
He's older. He's not the same guy. The legs. I thought they would have a better chance there because he had the extra day. It didn't pan out that way. Colin, I mean, how I feel about these things. They say what like generic answers. And if they don't say stuff we really want them to say, we get mad about it. I wouldn't trade Embiid for post-game interviews. I'm trading for what I just watched on the court.
Yeah.
Right. You know what I mean? So I love you, Colin. But you know what I mean? Like I heard other guys, I didn't get a chance to hear what he said.
So Embiid, and I agree with you, Tom, right? Like I'm gonna look forward because we have a trend of either getting hurt or again being healthy, but then not really showing up, right? Embiid after today's game 7 loss, he said, "Me and James can't win alone. That's why basketball is played 5-on-5. We need everyone to find ways to be better."
I mean, there's truth to that.
Yeah.
I mean, there's truth to it. Like he did hold himself accountable though, so we're just taking a snippet, right?
Yes.
So like I want to be as fair as possible with that kind of stuff with him. But listen, if it depends what direction you want to go. If you're a person who says I believe in Joel Embiid, which I believe in him, right? And there's a way out there for me to keep him and get the right surrounding pieces, I'm all for that answer. Okay, I'm all for that. But I'm also all for the alternative if that's not an option, right?
Yeah.
Is to get, okay, it's the MVP of the league. Nobody ever does this. So, all right, who's willing to drop a Brinks truck off in players and picks?
Well, what I think these players need to understand, and let's listen, like you said it, like you're Joel Embiid's your guy. And, you know, if you would have come in to everyone like going at, like I saw a lot of people going at you in the chat, you know, earlier on the show, where it's like, oh, you know, Tom, how can you completely like abandon your guy Joel Embiid like that? It's like, well, people would be crushing us if we came on and being like, it's not Joel Embiid's fault. It's like, again, fool me once, shame on me, right? Or shame on you.
Stuck up for him. I stuck up for him forever.
Yes.
There comes a point you got to stop sticking up for players, right?
Yes.
Even if you love them, even if you believe that guy's special. I say all the time in sports, players follow the leaders.
Yeah.
So if the leaders are balling, the players follow. When you got your two best players on the court, right, atrocious from the field, okay, at some point the players are going to hit the surrounding players aren't going to be able to produce. That's what we witnessed tonight. We witnessed an anemic offense in the second half that scored 34 points. So if that's not reason to change, I don't know what is. But I also know ownership likes to line their pockets, and Joel Embiid lines their pockets at the end of the day. Even if even after a second round exit again, it still lines Joshua Harris and the rest of the ownership's pockets.
100%. This is an organization for numerous reasons.
But the Washington Commanders. I mean, I don't
It's
trust
an organization
this guy worth it all.
It's an ownership group, but it's an organization that's built on complacency, right? They want to throw like, oh, this is the highest paid coaching staff, you know, of our organization's history. Fine. We bought into that for a couple of years, but guess what? The results are going to outweigh that. Oh, we have an MVP of the league. We have a top 75 player of all time. We have a young star in Tyrese Maxey. We have Tobias Harris, who, you know, he's the ultimate consistency guy on defense and offense.
We got a young good player in Tyrese Maxey.
What did I say? Great? What did I say? Great?
Yeah.
Even I'm buying. Oh, okay. I'm buying into the Kool-Aid, right? So they still got me on that.
Yeah, but a good player, and at some point can really develop his offense game fully in different ways to be an elite, consistent scorer nightly. You know, he's got to bulk up a little bit defensively, but he's a guy that if you get two young players back, right, and some other things and draft picks, he's a guy with those, you know, those three guys per se, air quote, and you get draft picks. They're guys you can build around. But there's also ways like you talk about Dame, right?
Yes,
Dame. I'm sure there's other options that are on the table that we'll get into as the next month goes on here, and so right, but. Right now, the alternative looks better. Like when you're talking about trading the MVP, teams are running to see what you want for that. And if you're telling me you're going to pass up on like 5 first-round picks, 3 unprotected, 2 young players, and another player or so to match the money, then I think you're crazy. I think everybody's crazy. Like, and I love Joel Embiid, but at some point, I got to take the haul and start over because the trend has been every year. We got a second round exit problem. We don't got an Eastern Conference final exit problem. We got a second round exit problem. That's ridiculous. The fact that we're like, oh my God, we can't get out of the second round year after year after year after year is a joke. like if you're talking about Eastern Conference Finals, we can wrap our head around it a little bit more. We're gonna be like, all right, man, we keep getting there. We just got to find a way to push us. So what move, right, gets us past Game 7 versus Celtics, and then what move then cuts the nets down? Because if it's not cutting the nets down, what's the point? That's what we're all watching for. We love sports. Every year is the hope to win. That's our goal, is the hope. We hope we win. We hope we win championships, right? But at the end of the day, we probably don't. But that's what we all watch it for. We wait for that. We try to build our team around that. We hope for it. We do shows on it. All those things tie into, okay, are we going to run again with it when we tried so many different options and they haven't worked? Or are we going to get a haul back and retool around younger players? And as those draft picks come in, where we have a pick, we have another pick, right, etc., then we can bring those young guys in with guys that are turning 25 years old. And now, hey, maybe we have a chance to win. But this way, I don't know if we do.
And I want to make something very clear. And Tom, correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't want to put words in your mouth. What we're saying, say, for example, we move on from Embiid, right? And we get an all-time offer. Because I will also say that too. We are not saying that we are going to trade Joel Embiid just to trade Joel Embiid. But when an MVP is on the table, like you said at the open, Tom, I don't know if that's ever happened, right? I mean, I would have to really go to the Google machine to really figure out when that would have happened, if it ever did.
But you're not putting words in my mouth. If it's a great offer,
yeah,
you have to sit down and make the right basketball decision at this point. So, Bubba, I know basketball. I love Joel Embiid. I was the leader of the pack saying I'll never trade him. But the fact that he won MVP gives you so much leverage on teams that want to sell tickets. So if you really care about basketball on the court and not just money in your pocket, you have to look at it. You have to say, okay, what'd you say? Like, who you giving me? Hold on. What was that? 5 unprotected? Is that what you said? Like, you know what I mean? You have to, and not just those. You're talking about young players too.
Well, it's like, because we've done this, unfortunately, we've done this at times the last 3 seasons with the Tobias plus trades, right? Obviously, Maxey being thrown into it. And I would be myself very clear, just speaking for me. Like, I'm not trying to trade Tyrese Maxey for just anything. But also, what are we looking at things here, right? What are we looking at here? A young guard that's going to be wanting or going to be around a max contract, right? All signs point to that. You have 1 year left with that.
Can I stop you before you say that?
Go ahead.
Because if you somehow get Maxey, Tobias, and whatever in a deal for Dame, right? Are you doing that? Or are you going the other way where you're trying to get younger?
Well, that's the thing right there. And that's what I was going to say earlier, where it's like, if you pivot back, hypothetically, right, where you pivot to, okay, let's build around Maxey, the young role players, or the role players that fit, right? Because I can't get over the fact that things need to fit. Rosters in the past didn't fit. Fitting things around what you need and picks and all that. Is it worth going back? Say, for example, you're going from the 3 seed to the 6 seed, but then being in a better spot organizationally to go from the 6 seed to a top 3 seed for the next 5-6 years without it being the same old story? Or would you rather pivot to, hey, we're going to try this one more time, for saying that for another 5th year in a row.
Shits and giggles. Here we go.
We're actually, in a way, all in where we have to forget about getting past the second round or get past the Eastern Conference Finals. We have to win a title, because any year that follows, we are going to be so much in the hole because we're paying Damian Lillard $48 to $50-something million per, again, on a 30-something-year-old undersized guard.
Yeah, I don't want Damian Lillard. I don't want his contract. Yeah. I want to get younger. I don't want to get older. If I'm gonna do this, that deal doesn't put me over the top. So, to the question, like that doesn't put me over the top. There's got to be, I think more things on the side of moving on from Embiid would put fans over the top than what you can surround him with, unless this organization gets extremely creative, which we'll talk about in the months leading. But unless they get extremely creative, you're in a tough spot. So that's the whole point. I'm not like a guy who's running the trades Joel Embiid, but I'm also a guy at this point who I've loved him. I'm willing to listen. It's on the table now. It's a conversation that needs to be had because we don't know what this organization can do to retool around him.
Is there, just instant reaction wise, Tom, is there a player on an Embiid-sided deal where you're trading him, or a build-around player deal around Joel where you're like, he's my number one priority if I can somehow get him realistically? Someone out there on a team?
I think somebody who can play the 3 or 4 that, like, I don't have to look it up and we'll talk, we'll figure that out coming up. But if you can get a 3 or 4 that can really score the basketball and is really athletic, and you can find somebody like that can stretch it, I think that's the perfect thing to put around Embiid. If you keep Harden, but if not, like if you're trading Harden per se and a sign and trade, or guard, right? Like I want to put in another guard with Maxey around them, or the other way around where I'm going like getting a 3 or a 4 and trying that option.
So the name that I thought of when you're describing him, and it would be a Tobias Tyrese a plus. And it might seem great, but it would be around that. You're talking about Pascal Siakam is the player you're talking about, who will be.
I'm not against it. I'm not against it. Like we'll get into all this as we go.
Yeah,
it's a tough day, and it's a tough day. Another tough day in Philly sports when you talk about all the teams that have lost heartbreakers over the last year in Philly sports. It's been tough for us, but that's what we're here for. So hit the like, hit subscribe, stay with us forever. We're here. We got tons of live shows. Tomorrow, we got baseball talk with Mitch Williams and myself. Here's the thing. So join that at 1 p.m. Eastern for all our Phillies fans. We got a lot to talk about tomorrow. And obviously, we got a ton of other shows. So stay with us. Lock in. Right? We're going to close with that. It's a good little. That's our all-season plan is. We have some things we got to talk about.
We need to look in some mirrors. So that's my final thought. You've won nothing.
I just hate myself for thinking it was different, because it was. It was different all up until the fourth quarter of Game 6 and the second, third, and fourth, or really the fourth quarter of Game 6 and the entire second half of Game 7. This was a completely different basketball team that we didn't see all year. That's the weird part of it.
But I'm gonna stop you. And again, I'm speaking to somebody who is on the other side, right, of that. It's been different all year. It's been different all year for numerous reasons, right? You're a type of fan for any of your sports, football, baseball, hockey, even though that sucks, basketball, where you're going to look at the positives and things because you're going to believe first and foremost in the MVP, player of the year, top 75 player, and everything that comes with this team, right? You're going to buy into that, right? For anyone who, forget just you, Tom, for anybody who believed in this team for 5 seconds today or this weekend or this series, don't look at yourself and say, what did I do wrong? How did I misassess this? There was a lot of misassessments inside of that building, inside of that organization. Starts with ownership, finishes off with the GM, and it goes down to the players. We didn't lose today, right? We didn't do anything wrong. We didn't not show up. We didn't.
Yeah, I was there. All right. Well, like we said earlier, freaking net, dude. I can't get it. Like we said earlier, great show. Not a great day. Not a great
day sucks. It's going to be tough to get over. But
so we thank you. Like I opened the show, you want to get out of town? Go to phillysportstrip.com and book your next getaway. And Joel Embiid showed up like Spud Webb tonight. That's what he showed up like, little like Spud Webb. And James Harden showed up like a little ant. James is like an ant. Little baby ant, James. He was like a newborn ant. Just popped out of the womb. That's Ryan Brodo. I'm Tom Arnone. We thank you all. We see all you at Bubba, Martian, Mr. Wing, Don, Bruce Turner, Dynasty, Ethan, the nerdy sports guy, Anthony, Marquise, Chris, Paulie, Amin, Marquise, and I'm sure I missed a ton of you. Appreciate you. Yeah, Martian, just a little sit-in, short, quick show. Marsh, if you missed, Tom just did 2 hours. And then I'm back.
If you missed Tom, he'll be on tomorrow.
Yeah, be on tomorrow at 1:00. So, hit an end. See you guys.